This is Dr. Tom Roselle. After 38 years of practice and almost 1 million patient visits, the Roselle Center for Healing knows what works and knows how you can take control of your health and wellness. My team of doctors practice 21st century integrative medicine. Whether you suffer from chronic pain and fatigue, allergies, or headaches, we can help. Take charge of your health before it's too late. Make an appointment today. Call 703-698-7117 or visit online at rosellecare.com.
Dr. Tom Roselle Live, right now, on 105.9 FM and AM 630 WMAL.
Welcome to Dr. Tom Roselle Live. This is Dr. Tom Roselle live in studio. It's spring. God, it's beautiful outside. Sun's up, temperature's up, and you need to get outside after you listen to Dr. Tom Roselle Live. We're here in studio at 888-630-9625. That's 888-630-9625. Love to talk to you. Anything that you have on your mind today, let's work it through. Let's figure out how we can fix it without drugs, without surgery. If you'd like to get a hold of anybody in my practice, send me a note. You can do that after the show. And all you have to do is go to rosellecare.com. That's ROSELLECARE.com. And speaking of our website, go to rosellecare.com and go about a third of a page down, and you're going to see something that is going to be happening on April the 18th. I'm giving you a heads up. April 19th, I'm sorry, is a Sunday the 19th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And what is that? Well, we're doing a benefit for Caring for Others Limited. And what we're doing is we're working with them, and we're going to show you the Ageless Health PBS special at the Mosaic Theater in Merrifield, Virginia. It was nominated for 2 Emmy Awards, and it's a journey that follows 6 people who experienced amazing outcomes under natural holistic care who had previously failed under traditional care of drugs and so forth. This is a blockbuster. This is something that if you ever really wanted to see what happens through integrative and natural and holistic healthcare, this is an opportunity. All proceeds go to Caring for Others, a Virginia-based 501c3 foundation. Go to our website, rosellecare.com, and go down a third of a page. You'll see it. Click on it, and you'll see what it's all about. It's an amazing, amazing video. I'm going to be there. I'm going to introduce it. I'm going to show you the production, and then at the end of the day, we're going to sit there and we're going to talk about it, your problems and so forth. Love to meet you. Come up and say hello, shake my hand, and let's get to the bottom of some of these things that have been affecting any and all of you for so many years. And when you see these 6 people that have miraculous turnarounds, one with MS, another one with anaphylaxis, another one with transient ischemic patterns that were giving this guy migraines and so forth, a little boy who was ADD, ADHD, off the charts, a professional tennis player and so forth. It's an amazing production. rosellecare.com. That's how you find it. That's how you get your tickets. Let us know that you're coming. 888-630-9625. Let's talk about things that are out and about and, some commentary that I have to make. There's a guy that all of us had tremendous respect and admiration for, and he lived to 96 years old, and his goal was 100 but didn't quite make it. But he lived those 96 years very, very stalwart, and he was able to really do everything that he wanted to do. He had all kinds of goals, never stopped setting goals. And who am I talking about? Well, of course, I'm talking about Jack LaLanne, the amazing man. It's impossible to overstate the magnitude of disability and death that has to do with immune suppression in the body. It really beats up everybody, but more importantly, it beats up people as they age, and that's the problem that we all look at. All of us want to live well. I ask how many people want to live to be 100, 110, 120, 130, which is really your birthright, and I do this in front of crowds of several hundred people, and sometimes, people are hesitant of putting their hands up. Some of them raise them immediately. Some of them, and I begin to engage and say, well, why wouldn't you want to live? I don't want to live like that. I don't want to live that long. Why don't you want to live that long? It all comes down to everybody's afraid of infirmity. I mean, a lot of you are afraid of death, but guess what? It's inevitable. You're going to happen. You're born and you're going to die. That's just the way it is. That's the way, our Creator made things to happen. But it's that in between. It's that journey in the middle that we want to maximize, and we want to totally be productive throughout all those years. Many of you who know me have heard me say that retirement for me has a lousy metaphor. It's called death. And, I have no intention of checking out until, I'm ready to check out because there's no more to do. And I'm not going to retire until that happens as well. But here's the thing. We have to talk about underlying dysfunction to the immunological system. And that happens in so many different ways. And we're going back to our old friend, inflammation. Inflammatory responses are one of those things that we build up over a period of time that can be site-specific, but also can be general and global within our body. And it goes back to what we talk about as far as the triad of health, structural, chemical, emotional, or injury, diet, and stress. And all of those things are very specific in how they impact and affect our body. Well, in the case of, good old Jack LaLanne, this guy was really all about living to be 100 years old and doing it the right way. And, he had exercise. And this guy, by the way, was a personification of the 99-pound weakling. When he was a kid, he was sick and he was feeble and he had nothing, and he made a determination, got into weightlifting and then diet and so forth. And this low-calorie, rigorous exercise that he followed his entire life made him the guy that he was. Everybody looked at him as, oh my God, this is who I want to become. This is my model. This is the guy that I'm going to do everything that he does. Well, the problem is that he died of pneumonia. His lungs gave out. And it was after surgery. He had a problem with his aortic valve, and there was stenosis, meaning calcification. There was inflammatory reactions. And if he did his blood work, even all the things that he did, his blood work wasn't so hot. It was, you had high levels of homocysteine and so forth. Well, why is that? So you can go through the whole pattern of, these are the things that we should take and so forth. But diet starts the process of repair, regeneration, and prevention. And when we look at that, and also, he did the exercise. He had a great attitude. At least most of us saw that he did. And, this immune response pattern was what got him at the end. He was missing things in his dietary pattern. He was missing things that suppressed. And if you do the research, and there's a lot of it available now, because everybody looks at Jack as being, this is the guy that we want to be like and try to live as long as he did. Well, 96 for most of us says, well, that's a great time. But your birthright is really 120 to 130 years of age. So we have to clearly protect against this cascade of immunological degradation, this breakdown that occurs. And we have to do that by watching the total balance of things. Does it make sense to reduce your diet as you get older? Yes, it does, in caloric intake, unless you're really, really out there exercising hard all the time and you're putting things. So you slow the diet down. You drop it down by maybe your calories down by about 10 to 15% over what it was, if it was good to begin with. Some of you need to drop it down more than that. But nevertheless, you got to get out and you have to exercise. Remember, I've told you many times that if you did nothing more than walk 2 miles every day and stretch and breathe and drink plenty of water, your body is going to respond. Your risk of dying from a disease process reduces itself by 50% just by doing that. And the data's out there. And that's just not me telling you. It's out there, every place that you would Google and look and so forth. Make sure that you find time to emotionally balance yourself. And you can do that by meditation. You do that with prayer. You do that with finding time for you, finding that mental vacation. And sometimes you can do it for 15 minutes a day. Sometimes you need a day. And just say, hey, listen, it's all by myself. I'm going to go right and I'm going to dump and I'm going to do all those things that I need to do. So the piece that we have to look at is this immunological response that is our protector, but also the guy that knocks us down if it's not working because of an inflammatory attack that we do because of lifestyle. The things that we put up with. We get hurt, we eat like crazy, the dumb stuff, and then we stress. And nobody really teaches us how to do that. Well, that's why I'm here. That's why I'm doing Dr. Tom Roselle Live for all the years that I've done it, is to teach you how to change that thought process. And how many of you, put up with and push away from and, look at, things that are only expedient for you and things that will only degrade you over a period of time. Think about it. 888-630-9625. Back into the news again. It's, we go back to our old friend vitamin D, right? And it goes out, and every time you turn around, vitamin D is being credited with immunological response, protection against prostate and breast cancer. It's, a cardiovascular support, infectious support, and so forth. And then, you have manufacturers out there trying to sell it in every package that they possibly can. Well, the bottom line is simply this. And I want you to know this because you can go fight with your doc when he tells you you're fine. Because the laboratory fine, okay, is between 32 nanograms up to 100. Well, functional medicine will tell you that anything under 50 units is considered insufficient. 32 or less is highly deficient. I would venture to say our experience in our office, and we run vitamin D tests, all the time, is that 90% of everybody that we do a test on is deficient, is under 50% or under 50 units. So if that's the case, isn't it a correlative why this time of the year, from like October, November, all the way through February, and now the first part of March, the sun doesn't shine, and it's cloudy outside, and it's gray, and you don't get the stimulation from the sun of vitamin D. Even if the sun was out, the sun's on such an angle that it can't stimulate your skin receptors to produce what it needs to produce. So you got to do something about it. First, you got to know, and then you're not going to go limp around and take 2,000 units or 500 units of vitamin D. Some of you got to take a whole lot for a long time. And it's not 50,000 units of artificial D2 that your doctor's going to give you when the levels are up. They pull it out and say, well, you're great. Well, no, you're not great, because now as soon as you get rid of taking that vitamin D, everything else goes down. But there's the catch. If you have to be on that, there's other pieces. So I want you to be aware of it, because there's so many other pieces of this puzzle that we ignore constantly. There's so many positive effects. Think about it. When the sun's out in the summertime and you get outside and you sit there in the morning, even if you don't want to get, you're not out there for tanning, but you sit out there for an hour. It's a warm morning. It's a warm afternoon. And don't you feel good? Doesn't everything look brighter and better? And it kind of sets you on track for the rest of the time. You're usually healthier in the summertime. You feel better. You feel stronger. Your muscles work. You're looser. And a lot of that just has to do with your body's ability to produce vitamin D. Now, if you go take a shower and you soap up all the time, guess what's going to happen to your vitamin D? You're not going to produce it, because the soap film on your skin doesn't come off, and it blocks the melanocytes, the receptor sites, and you can't stimulate vitamin D. So don't be so clean. Just, shower down and do the important parts. But let that stuff that gets to the sun, without sunblock and all that nonsense, get stimulated the way it's supposed to. Otherwise, it's for naught. You're still vitamin D deficient. And if you're not eating the things that you need to have, you're still vitamin D deficient. So there are many reasons to take note of the positive effects of vitamin D. And, from heart disease to diabetes to even ladies, premature birth processes. A lot of you are giving it up real early, and your children are going into NICUs and so forth. Vitamin D is one of the reasons that takes place. You're not getting it, so guess what? So what's the best and the most absorbable form of vitamin D? It isn't D2, it's D3. D3 is 500% faster absorbed into the system than D2, but it's got to be converted. And the one that converts the best is D3. You're wasting your money with everything else. So make sure you understand that. Do your homework. Remember, as I've encouraged you many times, get out there and be the captain of your own ship. Your health is a do-it-yourself program. We're coming up to a break. We have to applaud and pay attention to people who bring you Dr. Tom Roselle Live. When we come back, we're going to take your calls at 888-630-9625. Remember, this show's for you. That's why we do it every Sunday here at the same place. See you in a minute. This is Dr. Tom Roselle, author of Ageless Health. Health is a do-it-yourself program. My book, now also available in audio version, is a step-by-step program of how to take control of your health and wellness without drugs or needless surgery. You have the capacity to change your health and level of well-being. Take control of your health today and order Health is a Do-It-Yourself program
For more information and to order, please visit agelesshealthbook.com. That's agelesshealthbook.com.
Welcome back. This is Dr. Tom Roselle. You're listening to Dr. Tom Roselle Live. Indeed, we're in studio. It's beautiful. There's no reason to not be here today. It's gorgeous. 50-some degrees, sun's out, no clouds. Couldn't ask for a better day, could you? Just make all the snow melt and go away. 888-630-9625. Give me a call. Let's talk about some of the things that you need to know about on many different topics today. It's your program. Let's see what we can iron out, so to speak. You know, as I go through the day-to-day and I look at all the advertising, the marketing that tries to get you to buy stuff, you know, they do a survey and they say, in a study of, and that study may be 10 people, you know, these things happen, and guess what? You know, things do happen for people who are in a desperate place. They take anything, things happen. But you really need to know the ins and outs of stuff. We've been spending a few programs on neurological dysfunction and brain function. And we talked about, you know, how neurocognitive degeneration is related to something called mitochondrial breakdown. And there are many different diseases. We talk about Alzheimer's, there's Parkinson's, there's ALS, there's intention tremors, and all those things. How do I want you to understand this? The veil is beginning to be lifted slowly, so you begin to understand that where you end up really is a result of an accumulation of many different things that have taken place over a period of many years. There's a big thing now that we've known for a long time, and it's called 5-MTHF, methyl tetrahydrofolate. And what that is that's the end product that you need when somebody takes folic acid. That's where it's got to convert to. And if it doesn't convert into that 5-MTHF or that methyl tetrahydrofolate sufficiently and well enough, then it's like taking nothing, and it's converted in the liver, and that's, you know, that old liver of ours. You know, most of you are clogging it up year-round, and it's got to be free. It has to have its pathways working extremely well. So all of a sudden you're starting to see these articles, and they start popping up in every journal across the board, and, you know, the conclusion is that so many people who need things like B12 have to have a carrier by the name of 5-MTHF. And if that carrier, when you take folic acid, is not being converted into 5-MTHF, then it's like taking nothing, and your inflammatory level, here we go again, we're going back to that inflammatory piece all over again, starts being deficient relative to its ability to handle all of this stuff, right? So think about this. Inflammation is a wall. It's a blockage. It stops things from entering the body. Inflammation is acid. It causes things to break down and degrade. Inflammation can be target specific. It can block receptors, just like when you get insulin resistance in diabetes. Okay, beginning to follow? So here's what takes place. When you have these high levels of inflammatory response, you have to have something that will begin to break the levels down. One of the most critical and important things is B12 as it relates in conjunction, in combination with methyl tetrahydrofolate. All right? So I know I'm giving you a chemistry lesson, but it's important that you understand this. So when you go to the counter and you say, I want to have B12 or I want folic acid, half the time you're buying junk. It doesn't work. And that junk comes in all sizes and manufacturers and so forth. You need to learn to read labels and know what it really means. Because I know many of you really want to make a difference in your health, and you want to be able to know what the difference is and how things, you know, really work in the body. Yet, you know, doing the research sometimes, there's so many different people talking from so many different platforms, and you have to ask the question, what are they trying to sell me? Well, what I'm trying to do right now is not sell you anything, but get you to understand what it is that you have to look out for. So there are many ways of determining needs of this substance, and we're going to go into B12 in a second, because there's 3 different types of B12. There's the cyanocobalamin, that's a B12. That's the one that you see most of the time because it's what? It's cheap, it's inexpensive. You have methyl methyl-cobalamin, which is the one that handles different methylation pathways, inflammatory pathways, and there's something called hydroxycobalamin. And hydroxy is, I use the term lovingly, it's a scavenger. It goes in and picks things up and gets rid of them and repairs and just does things that should be done. Okay? So what we see is that we have to have a carrier, and this carrier is, as we said, this methyl tetrahydrofolate, 5-MTHF. And some of you have a genetic glitch that you can't take folic acid, which is what you're really picking up in most of these vitamin supplements, and converting it into methyl tetrahydrofolate, or 5-MTHF. That's a mouthful, right? I'm even having trouble with it today. So it has to convert, and then that what helps the transport of the other substance, B12, and other substances as well. Now, homocysteine. Let's take something that you can see on your lab test. It's run with, if a doc's smart, he's going to run it with a lot of cardiovascular markers and so forth. And that cardiovascular marker is about inflammation. Okay, here's our friend again. So why is that important? Because if you're inflamed, you're going to plaque. If you're inflamed, you're going to plaque. Remember, inflammation is what? Acid. So if you have acid, your body has to protect you from that acid, because otherwise it's going to eat a hole in everything, including your arteries. So what it does is your body has to go into a place of, how do we neutralize this? And how it neutralizes this is by grabbing fat and something that neutralizes even more. It's called calcium. And now you've got hardening of the arteries. You've got calcific infiltration, because your body's trying to protect you from all the junk that you're putting into it, and all the exposure and all the stress and all the structural, chemical, emotional, the injury, diet, and stress patterns that you haven't got a handle on. And that's how things begin to work. So now, homocysteine is really a measure of three substances, B12, folic acid, and B6. It's indirect measurement. But if homocysteine is high, one of the things that you do is supplement with those three things. But if you're not converting folic acid, or if you're taking the wrong form of B12, or even, by the way, the wrong form of B6, you can't drop that homocysteine level, so your inflammatory level still stays high. So there's a piece here. You've got to understand what it is. You can't just go buy something and think that you're getting you're doing it because you want to try to help yourself. But you really have to understand that marketing often is just an enticement to sell something. And that's the piece. You have to really understand what it is that it does in your body. And, oh, by the way, where you can get it naturally. Because it starts with your diet. And when you get a country that is starting to push all kinds of genetically modified foods, and now, by the way, apples, they just approved apples can be genetically modified in this country. So now you have that to worry about. They've added to the list. We have a whole lot of other things. But remember, it's about knowing the difference, and that's what we're talking about today, the differences and how they affect your body. We're coming up to a break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about this in a very specific, but I want your calls. Call me at 888-630-9625. You're listening to Dr. Tom Roselle Live.
Dr. Tom Roselle Live continues now on 105.9 FM and AM 630 WMAL.
Welcome back. This is Dr. Tom Roselle. You're listening to Dr. Tom Roselle Live. I'm in studio. It's gorgeous outside. No problems on the road today. 888-630-9625. Give me a call. Let's talk about the things that you want to hear about today and try to put the fire out on some issues that, you've been kind of playing with drugs. Yeah, not a good thing. There's ways. Your body's extremely forgiving. As long as you're breathing, you can still hear me. The situation that you have to be aware of is that your body will respond and will restore itself if you do the things that you need to get done to make it happen. Again, I want to remind you that on April the 19th at 2 o'clock in the afternoon at the Angelica Film Center, immediately after this program, guess what's going to happen? We're going to have the opportunity and the pleasure of showing you the twice Emmy-nominated award Ageless Health movie. And it was released for public viewing now from PBS, and we're doing a fundraiser for Caring for Others, a Virginia-based 501c3 foundation. Go to our website. Go to rosellecare.com. That's ROSELLECARE.com. Scroll down about a third of the way, and you'll see, you can't miss it. It's a big old picture. And this is a movie, a documentary that followed 6 patients who had amazing outcomes through holistic healthcare and natural integrative approach, where they had failed before that. And all these folks were on all kinds of medications. So if you want to see how it's really done, here's an opportunity. It's going to be a great day. It's going to be sunshine outside, and you'll have the opportunity. I'm going to present it. We're going to watch it, and then I'm going to answer your questions, and we'll do as much as we need to handle whatever it is that you'd like to know about that day. Ageless Health, the TV special, twice Emmy-nominated award. Go to our website. Go to rosellecare.com and handle it that way. Okay? Good. So let's talk a little bit more, and then we're going to come to your phone calls, 888-630-9625. You know, as I said, I read all the time, and I'm constantly looking at the deceptiveness in marketing. And there was one that says, high doses of vitamin C reduces Epstein-Barr viral infections. Okay? Well, here's the truth about EBV. It was called, the one that gave you the chronic fatigue syndrome for many years. And EBV, or Epstein-Barr virus, is a virus like so many other things. And if anybody from 22 years of age on, if they took your blood, they're going to see that you were exposed to Epstein-Barr virus. All of us have had the exposure. So it depends again on what? Your immunological system, or whether or not you have a problem with this thing one way or the other. And they're saying that high levels, high doses of vitamin C will help this. And what it does generally is it triggers the reaction of something called interferon within the cells, and that fights this bug and other types of viruses as well. And this thing's been implicated in all kinds of stuff. And the bottom line with this is simply straight up. It's a virus. And if you take vitamin C and get enough vitamin C in your diet at high enough level, Linus Pauling, who won the Nobel Prize on vitamin C, said that every adult in America should have close to 10,000 units of vitamin D to 15,000 units of vitamin D a day, from all sources. Well, the side effect of too much vitamin D is you get a loose stool, but that's all. And so you bring it down to the level, and you don't do it all at one time. You do a little bit here, a little bit there, because as my patients will say, well, aren't you going to urinate it out? And I'll say, yeah, you do if your body's not absorbing it, because there is a filtration rate, if you'd like to know the numbers. It's 1.66 milligrams per minute of unused vitamin C. Your kidneys shuttle it out and get rid of it. But in the meantime, you're saturating your body, and you're going to get immunological protection. So what I'm bringing this out for is vitamin C great? Yes. So what they're doing is they're reworking it, because they say, well, Epstein-Barr virus, and you have, if you got chronic fatigue, and you have, all these other things, as Burkitt's lymphoma, which is not a good thing, and it may help you. Yeah, it does help you, and you should take it all the time. 888-630-9625. Anne, thank you for holding, and thank you for listening to Dr. Tom Roselle. How can I help you?
Good afternoon, doctor. I'm calling because my husband has rheumatoid arthritis, and he's been started on methotrexate.
Of course he is.
And it's wreaking havoc on his body. Also, he's on the folic acid, 1 milligram a day. And the only thing I see on the bottle is folic acid and, in parentheses, fulvite.
Yeah, methotrexate. Let's handle that just a little bit. Methotrexate is obviously an immunological problem. It starts in the intestinal tract, and it usually is a result of a lot of imbalance in that system. Subsequently, the patient becomes very reactive to all kinds of things, and it begins to suppress and shut down immunological response. It is a cousin to things like psoriasis and leukemia and degenerative arthritis reactions. Methotrexate, unfortunately, has huge side effects, and it can cause cancer. It's one of those things that is well known, but they keep doing it. Everything from, you can have diarrhea with it, which is one of the least common things, but you can end up with bleeding. You can end up with irritation of the skin. You can have back pain. It can cause mental problems. The dizziness is one of them, and it goes on. There's a lot of different ugliness to this medication. It's one that I don't like the drug. I think there's other ways of doing it. The rashing, the skin boils, all of that. So it's an ugly thing. Does it work for some people without reactions? Rarely. There's always a reaction of some sort. So a patient who has a rheumatoid type of condition, particularly an RA immunological response, you have to find out what's causing the problem. If our patients, the people that we evaluate that have that, we're going to do a lot of different look-ats. We're going to see what the integrity of the intestinal system is. We're going to see what reactions relative to foods and environmental things and additives and preservatives. We're going to look at, was there any exposure to heavy metals, everything from mercury to arsenic to lead to cesium and so forth. Depends on where the patient is. We're asking the question, where were you? How many inoculations have you had over a period of years? What are the triggering mechanisms that knock down this immunological response system? Same things that we're talking about right now. And with RA, with rheumatoid arthritis, the methotrexate, one of the primary organ systems is affecting is the liver. So when you're taking, B12 folic acid, even if there's not a problem, it's going to mess up that phase 1 area of detoxification. So what takes place is you can't convert hormones, things get worse, and then it has an effect on the heart. So you're right, it's a bad drug. So can the other things be done? Yes, and it can be done from a natural point of view, but you have to look at the nervous system generally. You have to look at the areas of energetics within the body. You have to look at chemistry within the body and find out what has to be balanced, not through drugs, but begin to detoxify the system, pull these things out of the body, use nutrients appropriately once the body begins to have the ability to use them, so you can trigger other streams of reaction within the body. Does any of this make sense? Am I just kind of flowing?
No, it does make sense. And I was just wondering, what kind of insurance do you take?
Well, in our practice, we file insurance as a courtesy for the patient. We do not accept insurances. We're not on a doctor's list. So what we do is we file that for you, and then there's the insurance companies reimburse you directly. So we sit down, and if we need to work, payment plans and those things, we do that as well. So our job is to make sure that you can get the care that you need, not prevent you from getting it. So can I ask you if you take 2 of them that I have? Well, we don't take them. What we do is we file them for you. Okay. Right. So the patient is responsible in our practice for taking care of their bill. And what we do is we support them to make sure that they can handle it. And even if it means that setting up, a payment plan or whatever we need to do, we'll do that for you. Okay. But we will file the insurance. We file it on a weekly basis to make sure that you're getting adequate reimbursement off the top. Okay?
Thank you so much.
And you're more than welcome.
And you're in Fairfax, right?
We're actually very close to the National. If you know where the Red Cross building is, right near the corner of Prosperity and Route 50.
Oh, I know that area.
Okay, we're in the Red Cross building on the 3rd floor.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for calling. Appreciate it. Michael, how can I help you, sir?
Yes, you were talking about vitamin D and B12, and I've got vitiligo, and I was just wondering what the correlation is, if any, and are there recommendations for levels? And also, in reading about vitiligo, they talk about folic, but there's a difference between folic and folic acid. Folate and folic acid.
Yeah, that's what we've been talking about. It's there's a big difference, and so we're going to go back a little bit. Let's just talk about the vitiligo to begin with, because it's a very significant problem for a lot of people, and it's a loss of pigmentation, and you see it more when you get into the sun. If you're a person of color, it's going to be more obvious than somebody who is a Norwegian, where their skin's light to begin with. But it's a condition, that involves the loss of that area, that pigment called melanin, or the pigment melanin, the melanocyte receptors. And so what happens is that you can't stimulate the tanning. We'll use it just for understanding so people get what we're saying. And so when you look at somebody, you see, because they've been out in the sun, the rest of the skin around it tans or maintains color, where this becomes denuded and it loses its color completely. So there's a lot of things that can help, but you have to find out where the triggering pattern is. In our experience, there's microorganisms that are involved in this, and if you're if the doctor is able to find the organ system that's involved, then things begin to clear up and they begin to change. Does it happen in every case? Some of them are far more involved. They get into the genetic map at one point or the other, and so subsequently, not everybody's going to respond the same way. You can see it on the hands, you see it on the neck, you see it on the face, you can see it throughout the entire body. It's responsible. Vitiligo is a condition that occurs, in the medical literature. They don't know why. In the natural culture, again, they're going to go to a lot of things that have destroyed the underlying pigment-producing cells, and that can be anything from fungus. In many cases it is certain types of bacteria involved. It can be heavy metals as well. But melanin is what you're talking about, and it's responsible, obviously, for that color. And it's, the white spots develop, again, when everything around it gets tanned and that doesn't. So as you begin to lose the pigment, and the pigment around it is still tanning, and sometimes it just continues. So what you have to think about is this. Why do you end up with one spot, then all of a sudden it begins to spread and spread and spread and spread and spread? Well, it's because something is killing it. There's something in the body that is knocking it out or suppressing, if you will, the capacity, the function of those melanocytes to be able to produce the melanin that is necessary. If we're doing, there's a lot of correlation by the people who get gray early as well. That happens, and you can see it in eye grounds, you can see it in different types of reactions. So how do you handle it? And I'll answer your question on the B12 and folic acid. We've been talking about 5-MTHF, and that's the substance that the body has to have to use B12 and other different types of processes. Folic acid has to be converted in the liver. And if it can't be converted, then it doesn't do you any good, and it actually will cause other types of problems. Patient who has a phase 1 and a 5-MTHF failure will get more inflammatory responses. They're more susceptible to toxicity. They're more susceptible to all kinds of disease processes, because B12 converting into folate is critical in putting the fire out, this inflammatory reaction that we've been talking about, on the program today. So I hope that helps you a little bit. But to answer the question, there's no broad brush. I can't help you with this without knowing much more about what's going on. I can tell you, go get folic acid that is already in the folate form, and get B12 in the hydroxy form. And the ratios that we use are 5 parts folic acid, folate, to 2 parts B12. And you take those several times a day, and that begins to support that underlying system. But in a vitiligo situation, you still have to know the underlying problem that exists before you can do anything about it. I hope.
Okay. How would what kind of doctor? I've gone to a dermatologist and say, oh, yeah, you've got vitiligo.
You come to somebody that does the work that I do. Go to our website, go to rosellecare.com, take a look at what we do, and then if I can help you, send me a note, and we will refer you to somebody. I think you're local anyway, so I'll go back and forth with you on email. Do that first, and then let's see if we can hook you up the right way, Michael. I appreciate your phone call. 888-630-9625. I'm going to wait until after the break because we're coming back up. We have a couple more people online. I'm going to try to take your calls today because they're important to me and they're important to you, and I want to make sure that you get the information that you need. But in the meantime, please understand that Fifth Avenue marketing, and I guess that's where I'm going today, is that Fifth Avenue marketing can be deceptive. You have to understand a little bit about how things work. You owe it to yourself. You're smart people. Go online, learn about the different reactions, and don't take anybody's word for it. Really understand it. I'm very tempted to do a series of classes to try to help everybody really get through this process. I wish I had the time to get it done, but in the meantime, you're just going to have to put up with the program and learn as much as you can here and come to our classes every other week. We have our in-house continuing education classes. That's why we do that, by the way. You can check that out on our website as well, rosellecare.com. We're coming up to a break, and we'll be back after you hear some very important messages. And stay tuned. Don't go away. This is Dr. Tom Roselle.
Are you dental phobic? Do you neglect your dental health because of fear and anxiety? A beautiful smile begins with exceptional dental care, and you can trust in the expertise of Soft Touch Dental Care and Dr. Michael Chung. Soft Touch Dental Care is unlike any dentist office you'll ever experience. Their warm and welcoming environment is designed to soothe fears and anxiety the moment you arrive, and they're especially pleased to pamper their honored guest patients. Dr. Michael Chung is a professional and leading expert in all areas of comprehensive dentistry, including cosmetic, sedation, neuromuscular, TMJ, and implant dentistry. Offering state-of-the-art technology, Dr. Chung can give you the smile of your dreams. Arrange for a complimentary consultation today with Dr. Michael Chung and experience the expertise that makes Dr. Michael Chung so unique. Call 703-319-6990. That's 703-319-6990. Or visit bestinsmile.com. That's bestinsmile.com.
WMAL-FM Woodbridge, Washington. WMAL Washington. WRQX HD2, where Washington comes to talk.
Welcome back. This is Dr. Tom Roselle. You're listening to Dr. Tom Roselle Live. 888-630-9625 is how you find me here in the studio, and how you find me when I'm not on the air is you go to rosellecare.com. That's ROSELLECARE.com. Love to talk to you anytime. If you'd like to talk to one of my doctors, call the office, 703-698-7117. Tell my staff that you'd like to have one of my guys hook up with you and talk to you and answer your questions. We're there for you. That's what we do. This program is for you to try to educate you and make sure that you get the best direction. But as I've said repetitively, don't believe anyone, including me. Do your homework. Don't be duped by advertising. You have to make sure that you understand the process. We're trying to educate you and try to give you the tools. That was my book. That was Ageless Health. Health is a do-it-yourself program. If you haven't purchased a copy of it, it's not expensive. Get online. You can either buy it off our website or you can go to Amazon and buy Ageless Health. Health is a do-it-yourself program by me, and learn something. Learn how to think. Because it's really about thinking. Right now I'm sitting here and I'm watching the screens light up. You're supposed to be calling before we get to this place in the show. Linda, how can I help you? Hi, Linda.
Hi. Just to make a long story short, I'm in my early 60s. In my early 50s, I became sensitive to everything, chemicals, drugs. No doctor could help me. I got myself DNA tested, and when you started talking about the liver and not being able to metabolize the folic acid, I have the issue, because I was DNA tested, in the P450 system. I suppose you're familiar with that.
Sure, cytochrome P450.
Yeah. I'm a poor metabolizer of 2D6, which I had to figure all this out myself.
Okay.
But when you talk, I'm wondering if I'm having trouble with these. I can't take drugs very well, and a lot of them are metabolized through that system.
Okay, so quick question.
So how do I handle the B12, the folic acid? You have to take the right forms. You have to get the folate form and take that instead of the folic acid form, because you're not going to convert it. So so that's all you can do at this point. Your liver has to be clear. It has to be detoxified. You got to find out if there's buildup of other products within the liver, if you have any heavy chemicals that stem from metals, toxic metals, if there's any other forms that are even bacteria and microorganisms and so forth. Linda, I wish you would have called earlier. I would have loved to have tackled this in depth for you. I'm supposed to take calcium for my bones.
It depends. There's many different forms of calcium. You're going to have to use things that are very absorbable. You're going to have to take them in combination with, for example, vitamin D, vitamin K, strontium, boron. You have to make sure that you have adequate levels of hydrochloric acid within your system. If you're not producing enough hydrochloric acid, you can't absorb anything, because the stomach is necessary to break down proteins and put amino acids in their proper form, so it actually chelates them so they can drag through the small intestine and then through the body. Then everything has to shunt through the liver, because that's how the body converts it. The liver is primary in handling everything that goes on. Linda, I wish that you had called earlier. I'm really sorry that you didn't. Marilyn, calling from Gaithersburg. Real quick. How can I help you?
Okay, I have arthritis that's in my neck on my left side. I did email you all about it. I'm 75. And I would like to know, and it's fused together. the arthritis is fused together. I've had x-rays taken, and the doctor said nothing could be done except surgery.
Okay, so here's what we would look at with you. You would go on a trial of acupuncture, low-energy light laser, nutritional detoxification, decreasing the inflammatory response, and see how your body reacts from there. Decreasing the inflammation with all those other things can make huge differences in how the body works. We have many patients who have been surgically fused. We have patients, but you need treatment. You're in Gettysburg. I will try to find send me a note again to tickle, my memory, and I will try to find somebody in your area that I would trust, that I would go to. Obviously, you're going to need treatment on a very regular basis to make a difference, and you have to have somebody that can guide you from a functional medicine, nutritional point of view. I wish you were closer because I think something can be done. Marilyn, thank you. I really appreciate your phone call. It's, again, call before so we can spend the time really going after things and digging through the process. Degenerative disease that causes spinal fusion comes as a result of high levels of inflammation within the body. If you don't knock the inflammation out, and if you don't balance the energetics and restore the proper chemistry within the system, nothing's going to happen. But it can happen if you're willing to do everything that it takes and do it consistently. You can make a difference. We're coming up to the end of the program, unfortunately. We're going to be here next week, same old time, same old place. Tell your friends about it. Go to our website. We'll see you soon. This is Dr. Tom Roselle. This is Dr. Tom Roselle. After 38 years of practice and almost 1 million patient visits, the Roselle Center for Healing knows what works and knows how you can take control of your health and wellness. My team of doctors practice 21st century integrative medicine. Whether you suffer from chronic pain and fatigue, allergies, or headaches, we can help. Take charge of your health before it's too late. Make an appointment today. Call 703-698-7117 or visit online at rosellcare.com.
At the Roselle Center for Healing, we care about your health and want to help you take your health in a new direction, far from drugs and surgery. Knowledge is the key to optimal wellness and control of your health. We offer free health education on chronic health conditions and natural integrative medicine treatments. Attend Anxiety and Depression with Dr. Bryce Miller on Wednesday, March 18th at 7:30 p.m. Space is limited, so register today. Call 703-698-7117 or visit rosellcare.com.